So around 2 years ago, I moved to Marbella, and now 2 years later, here in January, I officially moved back to Denmark. And in that period in Marbella, I scaled my AI agency up to around $75,000 a month. And you might be wondering, why did you move back? And that's obviously a question that I've gotten a lot of times. Why did I decide to move back to Denmark from Marbella? So that's exactly what I'm going to break down in this video. I'm going to break down my experience living in Marbella, the pros and cons, and ultimately why I decided to move back. So the reason that I initially moved to Marbella was because I had a client down there. I visited him and I just fell in love with the place. I like the energy, I like the vibes, and I could just see myself live there. On top of that, it was also to get out of my comfort zone. And I felt that. Like when I first moved, I was dead scared. Like I felt like it was kind of a heartbreak in a sense because you leave your friends behind, you leave your family behind, and you feel kind of like selfish in a way. But that's also one of my key takeaways, that initially when you are like starting the business, it's important to leave your environment, because whether you like it or not, people are trying to kind of like drag you down to their level again, because obviously they don't want to see you up in a sense, because it will make them feel worse about their current situation. And that's just the reality. And that's not something to do with them, that's just like natural human behavior. Um, so that helped a lot, not hearing people trying to say that what you're doing is unrealistic, like capping your mindset. Instead, you move to an environment where people are making a lot more money than you and are just living a way better lifestyle. So, first part of kind of my journey down there was super hard. The business wasn't going well, kind of like I had the back up against the wall. And I would say, like, for the first year, we weren't really doing that great numbers. I think it was around a year in, I invested into some coaching that actually changed the game for me and kind of made me think differently about my business and how to, yeah, run it, and the systems to build behind it. So that kind of changed the game for me. And then, yeah, things started accelerating from there. Kind of like the pros living there is the entrepreneurial network. It's great. The thing though is it's kind of like seasonal. It's not like there's a huge amount of people that are living there. It's more like people are coming during the summer. It is just more popular to live in cities like Miami and Dubai if you really want to have like long-term relationships. And that's like one of the main things I would say is a con, that people are there for a period of time, so you can't really like build great long-lasting relationships, which kind of sucks because obviously you want that. So people come and go. And the next good thing is like just lifestyle in general. You have all of the great beach clubs. You have um, good gyms, really, really good gyms. I would say some of the best ones in Europe, really nice gyms. Then you also have decent co-working spaces. You have, yeah, a lot of nice places to go out for dinners. So that's a pro. Then another thing is, yeah, another con that I've experienced is kind of like through a lot of time, and that's probably a bit personal, but I was feeling extremely lonely down there, um, because I just felt disconnected in a way. I was away from my family, and I had some family members passing away while I was down there, and you just didn't feel like you were there to support your family through those times. That's one thing. And then also just like during the weekends when you kind of took some time to relax, you just feel disconnected in a way that you couldn't like have a good like dinner with the family, catch up with them, with my brother, my sister as well, and obviously also my friends. Um, and then I was just not good enough at networking initially because when I wasn't making a lot of money, I felt like I didn't deserve to speak with these people that were making more. So that made me extremely shy from networking, and that made me to just basically sit in the apartment working every weekend, which good for the business, but it just kind of killed me inside, and I was really not feeling that well. Um, the next thing is like kind of the whole dating scene, and I think that's just how it is in these like bigger entrepreneurial spaces, that the type of woman these places attract, and obviously there are goods in between, but the majority of them are really materialistic, and that's just not the type of girl that I want in my life. Which made that part obviously hard, the dating scene, and I guess that's the thing in Dubai, Miami. It's just not the best place to find a good girl in my opinion. Next thing then is kind of like tax. Taxes in Spain is not great at all, so there's really no benefit from having your tax set up in Spain compared to Denmark. Like it's pretty much the same at the end of the day. So I would say that's another con. Another pro to mention is obviously the weather. The weather there is stunning. Great weather almost all year around. There's just like a couple of months, maybe 3 months in December, January, and February where it's not great. But other than that, it's really great. They also have some great run clubs where you can network. So that's also another great thing. So that was kind of a lot of pros and cons. So like ultimately, what made me move back to like one of the most like tax heavy countries in the world when I was making a decent amount of money. I think like almost everywhere in Europe, if you want to live, taxes are high. And I just kind of like Denmark. You like people that are similar to you. And obviously, when we are from the same country, people here, you kind of get along well. Then obviously, I'm close to my family and my friends. And then I think it's just about finding the right environment, because obviously there's also good entrepreneurs in Denmark. But other than that, I can I can play more long-term games because people that are also moving away from saving taxes, they're kind of living in a scarcity mindset, in my opinion. It's like, let me get out of this country so I can make as much money as possible in a short period of time because I don't really have the faith that I can keep making money. That's kind of what I'm thinking in a sense. And then, paying taxes, you're literally like helping people as well. You're helping people that are struggling. You are also just paying for your own health care when you're doing it. All of these benefits, obviously it's way higher than it should be in Denmark, but the way I see wealth is that you have peace of mind about money. I don't want money to buy a lot of materialistic stuff. I don't want a huge yacht. I don't want a supercar. I just don't give a damn about it. Wealth for me is not something you're showing off. It's having a good amount in the bank so you don't have to worry about it. And that is exactly what I could do in Denmark. I can just save up a bunch of money in my company and then I can start investing because those investments can start compounding over time. And that makes me operate from a place of abundance in the business because I know I have these money in there. And at the same time, I don't want to pull out a shit ton of money because every time I pull out money from the company, I'm going to pay like 40 to 50% in taxes. So that means I am just not spending money on a lot of shit. However, I'm not going to be in Denmark during the winter period. And that's just because it's so bad weather. And that's where I can go out on my kind of like networking journeys. Like, that's something I really love. I love being here in my own place. I love being in my own kind of like little circle here. I have my home office here. I can walk to the gym, it's 3 minutes away, and then I can walk back again and do my deep work for the rest of the day, take my meetings. And that just makes me extremely efficient because there's no distractions. What I love doing though is taking these trips away. So, for instance, last year I was in Miami. That was great, just like breaking beliefs and also networking. Like just seeing some different environment and then just like traveling and working is something I absolutely love. I was also back in Marbella for like a month ago. I was there for 2 months just because I couldn't stand the winter in Denmark, and that's just a nice privilege to have. So you can definitely still do that, and there's no right answer here. If I wanted to play a textbook, I should probably have moved to Dubai. But I don't want to spend my whole like my 20s in Dubai. I think I will feel so empty. I don't just want to be in the game for like, flexing all of these money, because something about wealth creation is also it's not something you're showing off. Obviously you can keep playing the game of who can buy the nicest supercar, but I just think that will feel so empty, and I don't think I will be able to find a girl, for instance, in Dubai that I can kind of build the future I want with. No offense. That's just my opinion. I know there's some offensive ones here, but I'm just being brutally honest. And then the other thing is, like, if you are in Dubai, I think it's just like if you live outside of Europe and you want to get back into the country, then you need to pay taxes on everything anyways again. So I would rather start building up my investments so they can start compounding from now going forward. Maybe I change my mind in a year, maybe I want to go to like Miami, whatever, but this is where I'm at right now. This is my thought process. Maybe I have some blind spots, but this is just kind of like the choice that I have made based on my values, and where I'm at in life right now. So yeah, I hope it was valuable. If you have any questions, if you're considering moving, please let me know. But I think the bottom line is, if you are starting out and you want to really get ahead and you feel like you're stuck, moving away from your hometown. I'm not living in my hometown, by the way, but moving away from your hometown is going to be extremely helpful for you, just to get out of the environment, have the backup against the wall. That's going to help you tremendously. I hope this was valuable. Have a good one. Bye bye.